hole, and they'll turn off that TV. They don't do this one for some reason, but they turn off that one. So, no video from Source One. And Rodney does have COVID, but Rodney's already had COVID and he's had his booster shots. And he says, and he goes, I think he told me, he said, I don't feel that bad, but at least it's not, I mean, we're talking last fall, I would have entire schools gone, the kids were at home, and a lot of, the best Wi-Fi in most towns is at the school. So, or any kind of internet. I don't even want to talk about dial-up, right? I don't guess it's that far. How do you get there? Owl Drive. I have to go off of Owl Drive. I have not been to Health Centers High School. Everybody else I've been to. But Health Center, no. Or if I've been there, it's been 20 some odd years. I maybe went there for a football game when I was teaching at New Deal, so. So you just get out and oh. Okay. Let's see.
The hardest part, like, about school was, like, since I had graduated as soon as, well, I graduated in 2020, so that's, like, 6 years of high school.
Right, so you had so little.
Yeah, and so when I went into college, I was like, oh my gosh, like, this sucks. Because, like, is college going to be like this for my whole year?
Well, but last fall, we taught a lot of our classes were face to face. I mean, my kids in here were face to face with me. They wore masks, but they were face to face. Good morning, how's it going? Well, you guys look really wide awake. Health Center, right? Yeah, there we go. I like it when the names come up so I can tell. Because a lot of the classes look like our classroom with the gray tables. But some look like Health Center. I mean, I had some that were, like Morton, I teach them, and they're actually in what should have been a theater room because it has levels. Like there's one level and then enough place for desk, and another level. There's 3 levels in there. And so, and there's a mural on the back wall. So when I see them, I'm like always trying to look at the mural. So, but at least I'm familiar with Morton. I took kids to speech meets there, so besides making trips, so. And you just go straight past level A and get to Morton. Okay, so we're missing Wellman Union. Okay, Wellman Union, are you there? I don't hear Coach. There you go. We can see how well our class has shown up. 1 out of 5, but 1 has COVID. Okay. Let's see. Let me send him a message.
Yes, we're good.
We're here.
You're here, so you're cleared to come? Okay. So do you have it or don't you have it? Do you have it or don't you have it? You don't have it? The rapid test said yes, but is it picking up on your antibodies?
Yeah, they were so high that's what it was picking up.
Okay, awesome. I will cross that off on you. So we're gonna, do you by chance have a copy of your narrative with you today?
Physical copy, digital online.
That's fine, you can work through it today. I am making some changes, there's the good news. Let me finish my message to Wellman Union right now. so sometimes I just have to stop and take care of technical things, so. Okay. I mean, Coach Chase at Wellman's been my facilitator for like 6 years. I can call him Roger. All right, so let's talk about what's gonna happen, Health Center, and last, buddy, some good news. I've decided, because I'm gonna be at Health Center tomorrow morning, and then when I leave Health Center, if you'll get one each of the pages, okay, Reed? Sorry, I just had to, it's the easiest place to put them. I'm gonna push back the final of the narrative to Sunday night. I know you're disappointed, but it's not like I'm gonna start grading them over the weekend, because I'm gonna be at Health Center, then I'm driving to Levelland after I get done at Health Center for a meeting. So it's just easier to push it back, okay? All right, Caleb, if you'll get one of each. It's the personal revision, and if you have a copy with you, fine. If you can have a virtual copy, that's fine. But what's gonna happen with the deep personal revision, if you complete it, for you guys here at SPC, if you complete it and bring me the document that shows that you've done it, you're gonna have to print it out. It's 10 points extra credit. You don't have to do it, it's just an extra credit, 10 points, which is a letter grade on this paper, or any paper, all right? And for the kids, you guys will have to complete the deep personal revision and turn it in to your facilitator on Friday, and then they will scan and email it to me to get the 10 points. If you don't do it, it's not a problem. It's not gonna, it'll show up that you didn't do it, but it won't say 0 in it, because it's not considered part of that total of the 1,000 points, okay? So the other thing I want to talk about, though, is turning it in. So when you go into Blackboard, this is the first time you'll be turning something in through Turn It In, and I just want to make sure you know what happened. So you go to week 4, and I think I've actually already changed the date. And when you look in week 4, you see the checklist. There was the peer revision comments. So, Rodney, did you figure out how to send me whose you looked at?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
I figured out.
Okay, awesome. It says final turn-in of narrative. That is incorrect. That should not be that. It's supposed to be turn it in. So forget that. I'll have to cancel. Let me delete that and put in the right one, okay? Don't know why that's not turn it in. I thought I'd fixed it and all of them. We're gonna take it out. All right, so now I'm gonna create the assignment. And so after I create it, I'll show you how to turn it in. It's a little bit different. I don't know if you've done it. Not everybody's used Turn It In, but remember, Turn It In is a plagiarism checker. So if somebody else has written this paper, it will show it, okay? Come on, let's go. It's a little bit snarky about starting up and doing stuff, though. Take a second here. Or 2 or 3. Maybe. There we go. Finally changed it, so this is gonna be. Okay, we'll just say here's the start date. The due date now is gonna be the 26th at midnight. Okay. And it will only allow you to turn in documents that it can check for similarity. So it has to be a Word document, a PDF, or an RTF, okay? So there's the assignment, and it's in, and it's gonna tell me in just a second that it's done. And now I'm gonna show you how you turn it in. It'll be slightly different for you guys, because I'm not a student, I'm the instructor. So it doesn't recognize me as a student. Surprise. Final of narrative, so you just click on View Complete. And by the way, when you see the red arrow and the blue paper, that tells you it's Turn It In. So any instructor can use Turn It In at SPC, which means you gotta be careful, because, if you have to write something for history or government, it will be run, okay? So you're gonna come here, it says non-enrolled student, so I have to put my name in. It should default to your name. Okay, and then the submission title is gonna be Narrative Final. And don't choose from Dropbox, don't choose from Google Drive, because the chances are if you do Google Drive, it'll be a Google Doc and it won't open it up, okay? so be careful. I choose from this computer, let's just put ancient works, lit, works cited, I'll load that in there, okay? And what happens, you come down here and it says upload. Please notice that doesn't say the word submit or turn it in, does it? All upload is doing is putting the document into a preview screen for you. So you can sit here and look at this and tell if it's the right document. That's a happy song for your ringtone.
It's so old.
It's okay. It's okay. The marimbas, a lot of people have that as their ringtone, you know, but not the rest of it. But you can look over here. So if you don't see a document showing up in the preview area to the right, that's the wrong document. Or it's not turn-inable, that's a new word. So you can hit cancel and then try to resubmit, or when you hit confirm, look, it says 572 characters, that's not good. But look how it gives you the word count. Remember, this is a 500-word minimum. If you put it in here and you see it's only 76, you're not gonna make a passing grade. So don't do that. If it says 300, you won't make a passing grade. 300 is only 60%. That's a failing grade. And it's not like I'm gonna give you a 60 anyway. So you hit confirm. Now once you've hit confirmed, it's gonna give you, congratulations, your submission is complete. This is your digital receipt. You get this green box that tells you that, okay? So if you don't get that receipt, then you haven't completed doing everything. That's turn it in. And if you didn't pay attention right now, you can always go, how do I turn it in? And go to YouTube and type in the question, how do I use turn it in to turn in a document, okay? And it'll show you the same procedure. So that's what's going on. The other thing you have coming is tomorrow, you have quizzes over 6 and 7. I don't know why I skipped chapter 5. We're gonna have to go back and pick it up because we have to have 8 quizzes, but I guess I wanted you to get to the finishing the essay and doing revision. I wanted you to read those chapters before we did it. Either that or I was rather scattered when I created this syllabus, maybe. That's a possibility. Anyway, so now you know it's in. So let's look at deep personal revision. I'm going to open it up. And again, this is, if you complete it, it's 10 extra credit points. If you don't, your choice. I don't have to grade it if you don't turn it in. So, for me, you know, it doesn't matter to me either way. But the first thing I want to stress, the very first thing you look at on this is talking about formatting the document. And so the first thing says, an MLA heading, no header. And I'll be honest, one of the other reasons I pushed it back is because I haven't finished looking at all the paragraphs for today's students, so I've got to get those done. It took me a while to get through. I got where I was making lots of comments, and I thought that slowed me down, so that helped. But push it over to the Sunday night to turn it in at, okay? But see, we've got MLA heading, no header. So if your heading shows up on every page, you've done a header. You need to reformat your document. But my best bet is you just need to retype it completely or re-keyboard it, whatever you want to call it. Make sure that the heading is correct. It's not, I don't know what you guys did at Health Center, but it's not these 3 things across the top of the page. Everything's on the left-hand side. If you're not sure, go back into week 1 where you have the formatting documents for class. When you open up that document in week 1, let me go to course content. You don't have to do anything extra special, just open it up. It's already got double spacing in it. It already has everything you need to go. So, come on. Okay. So all you have to do is put your name at your name. My name is in there and spelled correctly. So you don't have to worry about spelling my name. Then you just put, remember you changed section number to 208 for the SPC students, 443 for the high school, but you have to give me English 1301, 443, or 200 with 208, whichever one it is, okay? You have to have that in there. And the date has to look like this, 12 September 2017, except it needs to be 26 September 2021. And you don't get to do slashes, you don't get to do anything crazy. This document, Read, is in week 1 under formatting documents for class, okay? Then it has the title centered, which would be, if you're writing about your mom, my mom, okay? My dog, or if you want to put narrative essay, that's not putting a whole lot of effort into it. So, but I'm not as picky as if you get somebody, well, I know the high school kids are going to have me next semester, But if you guys have somebody else next semester, sometimes they think that title's the most important thing. Now, I'm not quite that way. I figure what you write's better than 5 words in the title. And then you indent the first line of a paragraph. You do not have it be flush left and then space between the paragraphs. That's not how we do it. We're living in English land, and I am the tyrant of English land. We follow English land rules, okay? So you have to do what I tell you to do. If you don't, you lose points. And if I keep seeing formatting wrong, eventually I will just put a 0 on your paper because you're not following directions. And that's disrespectful, and that shows you don't care about what you make in this class, okay? I'm looking at you guys, not staring at the scores, okay? I need some caffeine this morning. So let's go back over here, and so you can see, correct name of course section, the day, which is day, month, year, so it would look like this, 26 September 2021. If you abbreviate September, you put a period in, otherwise there are no marks of punctuation in that date. We have these enormous allergy counts out there. The title should be the same size as the rest. There's no underlining, there's no caps, it's not bolded, it's just centered and tells me what it's about. And you've got this on those papers. This is on your paper. So, are you correcting it as you go, Jackie? Okay. Hey, that's all right. I don't have a problem with that. The font, you can use 14-point Times New Roman because Times New Roman is a condensed font. The letters are kind of meshed together. So if you use anything below 14-point Times New Roman, it's harder for me to read. Bad eyes. Everything else, you have to use a 12-point font. Please don't use one of those cute ones that looks like handwriting. Those are hard to read. Okay? And don't use one where it's all caps all the time. We need to show something's capitalized that it's a proper noun. So, and then the margins are 1 inch. Don't mess with your margins. Just leave them whatever they're set. But if you shrink them because you think, oh, I need to make this look like it's 3 pages long. Guess what? I can recognize when margins are shrunk. And what's real interesting is students they won't necessarily shrink them here, they'll shrink the top and the bottom. So the bottom will be like 4 or 5 inches up from the bottom of the page. No, I'm not worried about page count, I'm worried about word count. So, believe it or not, we've been grading a long time. We know what you're gonna do to try to make it look longer, okay? And it's double space. And the advantage is, if you use that formatting documents for me, it's already set up double space. You don't have to do anything. And you indent the first line of every paragraph. So that's just formatting. And you can see I put it first because it should, it's the first thing I see when I look at your paper. So make sure with your name that you capitalize the first letter of your first name and the first letter of your last name. I've got somebody that can't seem to capitalize the G in Garcia. And I'm like, come on, dude, read your paper. All right. So introduction, does it begin with an overly broad or generalized statement? Is it an epic opening? I'm not that upset with an epic opening because, we are novice writers, even though you've been writing in school, but that's not exactly college writing. If you're going to start off with, if you're going to write about your dad as your hero, then you can say, when most people think of heroes, they think of superheroes out of Marvel or DC, like Superman, Batman, and I'm giving you DC, Thor, like that. In reality, most heroes don't wear capes or have superpowers. They just have everyday jobs that they do and do well. My dad is such a hero. See how I started with kind of more of an epic opening? And I didn't begin with a dictionary definition for hero, did I? Don't use the dictionary. All right, but that's how you can get down to it. The hook there is that most of us are familiar with, if nothing else, the Marvel movies, right? I kind of like Justice League. I don't know, there's something about, particularly the director's cut, where there's a lot more in there. It's much better. You get a lot of background, okay? Do you include a hook of some kind? That might be it. Do you lead your reader to the thesis statement? When I talk to you about, most people, when they think of heroes, they think of superheroes from the comic books, and, see how that's my hook to pull you in? Because I feel like people might know those. And there should be no big jumps in logic. You shouldn't begin. Most people, when they think of heroes, think of people in capes and stuff like that. My dad is a hero because, see how there's that big jump? You have to ease your way into that thesis. Okay, so, 3, identify your thesis statement. That means I want you to go and underline your thesis statement in your narrative, okay? Even if it's just my dad is my hero, that's a thesis statement. It's pretty vague, but you're writing a narrative, so that's acceptable. So it should be a one-sentence summary that clearly and succinctly tells what your essay discusses. My dad is my hero is pretty succinct. It doesn't give you any kind of subsections that you're going to talk about, but at least gives you the main idea. So underline it. If you have a main idea, label it. My dad is a hero. Do you have key points in your thesis? If you do, I have one student who's writing about what they would do if they all of a sudden had $1 million. So with $1 million, I'm going to pay off my student loans, buy a new car, and pay off my family's debt. So there's those 3 points. So they tell the story about how they would pay off all of their loans. You know, that would be a 3.1. You don't have to have 3 points in this narrative. When you start on that compare and contrast, you're going to have at least 2. I'm just telling you. Well, actually 3. But that's next week, so we'll worry about that then. But if you have 3 points, or if you're talking about 3 events that involve the person you're talking about, but if you're writing the narrative chronologically, you probably won't have the 3 points. This document is set up to do any document. This deep peer revision document is. Is the thesis the last sentence of your introduction? What I saw in a lot of the drafts that I've seen, which is about 65%, it's that you give me a thesis and you might have 3 parts in it, but then your last sentence would be, this is why my dad is my hero. And you're like, put that in your conclusion. Don't have that be your last sentence in the intro. Put that last sentence in there, and then your thesis becomes the last sentence of the intro. It makes it easier to find, and you're going to notice that I harp on that. Is the thesis the last sentence? So the conclusion, does it begin with in summation or in conclusion or something like that? Well, guess what? Your last paragraph should always be your conclusion. So you don't need to put in conclusion or in summation in front of it. Because I saw drafts that were only 2 paragraphs that had no conclusion. Some of them didn't even have a story or a narrative in it. So, you know, and I let you know, you've got some work to do. That's what I tried to tell you. And none of y'all, okay? I think I've actually looked at all of y'all's, haven't I? Yeah. Okay. So do you include a restatement of the thesis? If you have a restatement of the thesis, try to avoid using the exact same sentence. Give me slightly different words that mean the same thing, and try to keep them in the same order, because if you switch the order, these essays are not that long. I'm an excellent reader, so if your thesis statement is switched in order from your first one, I will go back and check and say, wait a second, this is a different order. Then it'll make me go back and check your organization again. Just don't use exact phrases, though somebody, and it may be in this section, was writing about, it was about a relationship, and I'm not even going to say who it is because I don't remember, but they had several sentences that began with the same 3 or 4 words, and they were building to a conclusion. Be careful about doing that. If you do too much repetition, it just begins, unless it builds to a conclusion, then it just looks like you're lazy and you haven't tried to be creative, okay? And do you include a so what? What's the lesson? What did you learn about whatever the narrative is about? So that's the conclusion. So here we have topic sentences. TOPS, on your essay, I probably will just write TS, so I don't have to write out topic sentence. And you're going to notice on my comments that you see a lot of times you'll see SENT, and I might put a period and I might not, but that's short for sentence, so I don't have to write out those next 5 letters, okay? A topic sentence should act like a summary in a way of the paragraph. What's the big broad thing it's going to be about, but it should not contain any quotations. The first sentence in a body paragraph should never have a quote in it. Quotes are evidence. They go down in the body of a paragraph. You can begin the introduction with a quote, you can begin the conclusion with a quote, or you can even end the conclusion with a quote. But don't ever put a quote as a thesis statement. That's the wrong thing to do. Okay. Set up a summary or define a word. Please don't say a hero is defined, Webster's dictionary defines hero as blah, 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 blah. I don't want to read that. That's high school. That's not upper level, that's not college writing. So we try to avoid quoting the dictionary, okay? And it's perfectly acceptable, K through 12, not in 13 through 16, okay? And it should not be a transition sentence, but it should provide a clear focus, but it needs to be general enough that you can get past it. So if you're gonna write about the day you had your wreck, and you're only gonna have 3 paragraphs, you've got your introduction, you've got the long body paragraph that talks about your accident, and then the conclusion, then you might wanna say, the night that I drove home, late at night, was not my best decision I made. See how that is a topic sentence allows you to, then you can talk about, on March 13th, 2021, I made the mistake of, see how you can do that? But if you limit yourself to putting a date, limit yourself to one thing, then you can't write about anything else in that paragraph, because that's what a topic sentence is, even for a narrative that's telling a story. Then the topic sentences should all have their own paragraph. You can't, if you've got 3 things you're gonna cover, you can't put them all in one paragraph unless you have a topic sentence that covers it all. And are there any not listed in the thesis? My student that was writing about COVID-19 and how everybody should get vaccinated, that's an interesting narrative, let me tell you. Had like 4 body paragraphs, and one of them was kind of like not really concluded because they really hadn't done a great job on their thesis. So you have to be careful that you don't wander off and bring in additional information. And please, I'm gonna throw this in right now, do not use the word ETC period in your writing. Do y'all know why? You know what ETC means? It means and more. So why are you telling me that these are reasons, but there's more? It's not my job to come up with the reasons. It's your job to come up with it, okay? So don't make me do the work. That's the whole point. Don't make the reader do the work. It's your job to do it. So just avoid and more. And please don't do that in the conclusion. Supporting sentences. Does each sentence in a paragraph relate to the topic sentence, or do some of them belong in another paragraph? And so here's a suggestion. Put your finger, pen, pencil, whatever you have, stylus, whatever you've got, on your screen, on your paper, and read the topic sentence, and then read the second sentence. Does it directly relate to what it said? I have many pets in my family. Second sentence. I have dogs and cats. Those are pets. I now have a kitten who's approaching 14 days old, something like that. I'm a kitty mama now, okay? And then my dogs are named. See how every sentence relates to the previous sentence? There's a relationship between all sentences. If it skips, you've got a problem. And notice how it says here, if you cannot read, notice it says not infer a direct connection between the topic sentence and the sentences in the paragraph, you're missing something. Either revise, move, or remove it. Inferencing is a huge thing that the state of Texas thinks everybody needs to do. And when we read literature, a lot of times, you know, there'll be all these subtle hints, you know, foreshadowing in the narrative, that to give you an idea what's going on. Well, guess what? We don't want to inference in this. If I have to make a guess at what you're talking about, and that's the other thing I've seen, people are writing mysteries. I learned an important lesson about life. There's their thesis, and then I still don't know what they're writing about. And then I get in the next paragraph, and all of a sudden, I start getting information. This should not be a mystery, okay? So I don't want to have to make an inference. I don't want to have to guess what you're writing about. So no inferring. I mean, obviously, you know, there are sometimes, but just don't do it. Does each sentence transition smoothly into the next? Is there a logical flow? And make sure you're not being redundant or circular. You're not talking about your trip and then you go back and talk about something that happened earlier in your trip, but you've already gotten almost to the end. Don't do that. And don't say the same thing just in 2 or 3 different ways. That's the one where you say, my mother is the best person I know because she's always there for me. She supports me in everything I do, and she loves me. Well, guess what? Those 3 things are basically the same, aren't they? So you're telling me instead of showing me. I want you to show me. So let's talk about sentence structure. This is the part that takes a little bit of time if you want to get the 10 points, okay? So do you vary your sentence length? So now all of this talks about how to do it. How many long sentences of 23 plus words do you have? If you have 10 and 500 words, that's probably about 7 too many, I'll just tell you. If you have any extra long sentences, 30 to 40, be sure they do not contain any sentence structure errors, comma splices. The longer your sentence, the more likely you're going to screw up and have a grammar error or a punctuation error. So how many medium sentences, 11 to 22 words, and how many short sentences, less than 10? I got an essay where like the first 6 sentences in the introduction were between 6 and 8 words long. And that gets very boring and repetitive. Though, that's one of the things where it says, why is it important to vary your length? So the reader doesn't get bored. But if I were gonna write about playing a football game, and I want to describe the action, isn't the action in a football game kind of short and choppy? So if I want to talk about making a run, catching the pass, dodging, see how I could do something like that. But doing 5 or 6 short sentences to do it might be a bit much. Whereas if I go, I dodged, I did this, if you do, hold on. I just got a phone call from my daughter. Sorry. I forgot. Did I teach? Okay. And then it says down here, do you need to revise to have more long, medium, or short sentences in the essay? You need variety. That's the whole point. Okay, so how do you begin each sentence? Underline the first 6 or 7 words. This sounds like a lot of work, but in a way, it's going to help you look at it, because writing is not just putting words in there, it's crafting. You look at what you've done. I don't think Stephen King writes, his whole thing and never goes back and looks at any of the sentences. I imagine he goes back and checks them all. So underline the first 4 to 6 words. Do they all begin the same way? Do you have subject, verb, predicate, or subject, verb, object? I am, he is, she did, there is, it was. If they all begin the same way, that becomes boring in and of itself. Any sentences that are back to back like that, underline and note to revise to yourself. I need to fix this. If it's boring to you, it's even more boring to the reader, okay? Any sentences, you can always begin a sentence with a prepositional phrase. After the clock struck 12, Cinderella ran down the stairs, right? Something like that. You can use a dependent clause, that's an awubis word at the beginning. You can also add signal or transition words to help guide your reader through the writing, okay? So circle the words this, that, these, those, there, it plus verb. Those set up vague constructions or passive phrasing. They're not as interesting. Pronoun usage. Do not use you, your, yours, or your. Do not use those. All right, so here comes the fun part. If you're writing in Word, and I know this happens on Mac, I just don't know where it's located, but if I'm on the main home screen with my menu, right after that style box, there's a little thing that says editing, and the very first button up there says find. So I click on find, and it brings up a box. And so I'm going to type in the word Y-O-U, because that would give me both you and your, because they all have those words in it, right, those letters. So I can see that you has been used 52 times in this peer revision document. Well, guess what? It's instructions. You is perfectly acceptable when you're writing instructions. It's not acceptable in your narrative. I am not a part of the story. Don't say, you should have seen this place. No, don't do that. That's conversation. I can't respond, and I'm not going to see that place, because if it took place in the past, I can't get to it, right? So think about it. So, and if you want to, down here it loads all of the instances, so you can scroll through all 52 results and go, ooh, I might need to take you out. Now, if you have dialogue is a different thing. Make sure you punctuate dialogue correctly, because I've seen dialogue in some of these narratives, and it is all over the place. But I'm not teaching you dialogue, okay? You can go look it up. It's in the book in the chapter on narrative, I believe, actually. But you can go in there and check that. The other thing you can do is you can look for the word, I don't really like it very much, the word just. So, oh, I didn't change it. It kept up on you. Come on. There's just. And you're going to see that I've used just in here twice, which is not excessive, but if you look at a paragraph and you have 3 or 4 just in a single paragraph, that's 3 or 4 too many. And we like to use it as an adverb, as an adjective. It was just the best time of my life, so, but let's don't do it. Let's avoid it, okay? The other cool thing you can do, and this will help later on, is you can put in a comma. There are 70 commas in this paper, and you can look at every single one. So I'm looking right here. It says title should be the same as the rest, comma, no underlining, comma, caps, comma, or bold. That's a list, so those commas are correct. But if I want to go down and look at, let's see. Now, a lot of mine are going to be lists in this, but it will allow you to see if you have your commas done right. Okay. So let's scroll down. Let me get out of navigation. But that's a very handy thing to do. Got to get down to punctuation or the year. Sorry about this. Here we go. Also look for we, us, our, and more, those pronouns like that. If you begin a sentence with we, and you say, we had a great time when we went to the Bahamas, and that's the first sentence in your narrative, who's we? Pronouns have to have antecedents. You have to have something that they rename. So you need to say, my family and I had a great job. Okay, that's the other thing. Me and my family is incorrect grammar. Me and my family went to the Bahamas. You wouldn't say me went to the Bahamas, would you? My family went to the Bahamas is grammatically correct, but me went to the Bahamas is not correct. And I have seen that so many times already this semester in those personal paragraphs and now in the drafts I've looked at of the narrative. No, me and whatever. Me and my friends went hunting, whatever. Oh yeah, Reed, you wrote about hunting, didn't you? Killing your first deer. Yeah, you killed Bambi. Sorry. Okay. All right. So, no, me and my. I feel, I think, I believe, I, and so on. Somebody wrote a paper about their mom, and it could be in this class. I don't remember. But every sentence, well, not every. The bulk of the sentences began with I. If you're writing about your mom and how she is your personal hero, then it should be about your mom and not about you. If every sentence begins with I, the essay is really about you and not your mom, okay? Does that make sense? And replace with one, if you've got a lot of that in there, to get rid of you, yours, and your, replace it with one, the reader, or person, people, just find another word for it, okay? Slang and informal words. So look, absolutely, these are used quite a bit, okay? So watch out for those. And contractions, spell out the contraction. You know, it is a word count. So if you go it's, IT apostrophe S, you've actually cost yourself one word. It is 2 words, all right? That's all I'm saying. Don't use contractions, and then you can add a word here and there. And we use a lot of contractions when we speak, when we talk. Okay, proofreading. I'm actually going to offer this on its own later on as probably an extra credit to do on the next one. Read your paper beginning with the last sentence and work your way back sentence to sentence. When we read what we write, we're reading for meaning. And we know what we said, right? Remember, that's one reason why we did the read aloud, so that somebody else could read it so we could hear some errors. But if you look at the last sentence and read it up to the first sentence, you're not reading for meaning anymore. You're reading for grammar, punctuation, and mechanics. That's a way to proofread. And what I'll actually do probably on the compare and contrast is have you hit a return after every period, and it takes it out of paragraph form. It's just looks like a big, long grammar exercise then. But you read from the last sentence up, and then you can see those errors a little more easily. Do you have any fragments or fused sentences? Remember, if you want, you can use a fragment, but you have to, in parentheses after it, tell me, right, you can write F-R-A-G, that's fine. You don't even have to write it, spell it out, but put it in parentheses after your fragment so that I know you know you've written a fragment. Right now, at this point, I can't tell if you've done it or not. I don't know if you have those skills. Even after reading the paragraph and now reading the draft of the narrative, I've had a lot of people, somebody began theirs with tick-tock, tick-tock. Well, guess what? Tick-tock, tick-tock, that's 2 fragments. Did you do it? If you're using it intentionally, I need to know you're using it intentionally. I can't just make a guess, oh, they know that's a fragment. Okay? Do you have any fragments or few sentences? Are all apostrophes used correctly? Please learn how to make possessives, or you're going to fail the apostrophe test. And are there typographical errors? And here I'm talking about where you use the word were, W-E-R-E, or where in place of each other, W-H-E-R-E. Watch out for that. Because if it's a word if you put in the wrong word, but it sounds like it, it's going to show up as not being incorrect. So I'm going to give you an example. I'm going to come over here to the document camera. I had a very, very smart student a few years ago. And this student was a National Merit Scholar semifinalist. Didn't make a finalist, but was a semifinalist. Very, very smart individual. And they were going to write about the Dolphins. Reese Witherspoon was going to save the Dolphins. She was writing about Reese Witherspoon as a personal hero. Well, but she didn't know how to spell the word Dolphins. And this is a very smart person. And I imagine she's probably spelled it D-A-L-P-H-O-N-S, and it defaulted to this word, dolphins. They're 2 different words. That's a mammal fish. I guess I call it a mammal fish. This is the heir to the French throne. And so Reese Witherspoon was trying to save the heir to the French throne, but there hasn't been a French throne since the, early 1800s. So even smart people can make that mistake. So you're only as good as your knowledge of what words are. So if you think you've misspelled something and it gives you another word, check it, okay? The other one that happens is, we'll want to write definitely, okay? But you'll go D-E-F-E, and that comes out as defiant. So make sure that you aren't accidentally replacing definitely with defiantly, okay? It happens. I was defiantly happy. You were defiantly happy. That's a whole different thing going on, isn't it? Okay, typographical errors. Commas. Guess what? We've already told you, circle all the commas. Check to see if it is a list. This is English land, remember? If you have a list, bacon, eggs, and toast. Bacon, comma, eggs, comma, and toast. Lists get commas before the final item with the conjunction. You don't get to cheat on that. Just because popular fiction and newspapers and magazines all leave them out, we're operating in my territory, okay? My world. Do you have a fanboys conjunction in there? Look for a fanboys. For, and, nor, but, or, yet, so. It's almost like a song I could rap, I guess. Is it two complete sentences joined by comma conjunction? Because it's not a coordinating conjunction. If it occurs in the middle of a sentence, I do not want to see a comma in front of it. You've been warned. It's not a major error, but it is an error. If you omit the comma before the conjunction and it is two independent clauses, that's a major error. That's called a fused run-on. Or if you just put the comma and no conjunction, that's a comma splice. So usage, make sure you're using the correct word. That and which, since and because. Please add this word to your list, right over here. I don't want to see this word used in your writing. Being that it was Monday, I couldn't go to work. Being, that's usage. We do not, you cannot use being like that. Being needs a helping verb with it. I am being quiet in class today because I don't want to get in trouble. I wouldn't say, being that I was quiet. See how, it just doesn't make sense. So don't use being. That's a big no. Hold on, I don't want to highlight that, I'll delete it all. No. Okay. Since and because, it's no contractions, it is. I went to the store to buy 2 loaves of bread, but they were too expensive. I just did a sentence with all 3 twos in it. If you're trying to show to what extent, you go too, I'm going too expensive, okay? Who or whom? I'm going to tell you, people just don't get whom. To whom it may concern. That's about the only time we're confident about using whom. So watch it. Precede and proceed, fewer and less. Affect and effect. Affect, 90% of the time is going to be the verb. Effect will be the noun. And just, if you run with that, I won't count it wrong. There, and there. T-H-E-I-R is a possessive pronoun. It was their car. It was their score. It was their job. See how it's possessive? T-H-E-R-E is location. It's either there or here, because it has the word here in it. Or if you begin a sentence with there are, there is, see? And then the other one is they are, and that's a contraction. There are many places to go in Lubbock. Yes, there are, despite what people say, okay? And then, and I have to stop and think about, should it be then or then when I'm writing? It gets me sometimes. Are you too conversational? Does it sound like you're talking, or do you use words that refer to speech? Say or tell. Please do not write in your essays with that being said. All that is a crummy transition. You get, because when you said something, you had a previous paragraph, you go, with that being said, now you're going to give me, no, don't use that. Don't use that avoid with that being said. Because I've seen that a lot too. And for one thing, you're not saying anything, you're writing, okay? And the last one is do not use questions. I do not like rhetorical questions because what happens if you don't answer the question? Then you've left the reader. And whatever you do, don't use a question as your thesis statement, and don't use a question to end your conclusion, because you want the reader to start thinking about the situation. No. You need to finish up whatever you're talking about, okay? And it is a lazy person's, and it never is a topic sentence, it's a lazy person's way to organize an essay. And God love them, we like our coaches, but they do like to say, do the questions at the end of the chapter, right? And so when you have questions, it feels like you're doing homework. So that's the deep personal revision. How do we get, we got through that. So, if you want extra credit, the high schools have to get it done by tomorrow and give the marked up copy. Obviously, just give it to your facilitators and get it back from them so you can make the changes, or make the changes after you've marked it. But give it to them, they will scan and email it to me. You guys will bring it on Tuesday, sorry. You won't be here Monday. And the paper's due Sunday night. And you have quizzes to take tomorrow, okay? All right, that's all I got. We're gonna start compare and contrast, so you might glance over it actually tells you to read it on Sunday, just glance over it. Because it's organizationally complex when you're talking about compare and contrast. Okay, who didn't come? I don't have that marked down. Who didn't yet? Mason didn't come. Okay. Health Center, I'll see you guys about 8:45-ish tomorrow.
We'll be ready for you.
I can promise I'm not gonna spend near as much time on drafts or compare and contrast. I'm like, ugh. But I've just seen a lot of issues. Yours is okay. You had your 3 reasons in your narrative, right?
Yes.
Yeah. I can tell you're a more mature writer. We're glad that you are not.
I can tell after reading it, the two that I read over, those tier ones.
Yeah, you can see there's a difference, can't you?
Yeah.
Yeah. And that happens. And it's just because you've lived a little bit more.
Mm-hmm.
So if nothing else. I mean, and while you were in the military, you had goals.
Oh.
Yeah, there was goals.
Yep.
Now, if you want to advance in